תודה רבה, נשיאות נכבדה, חברי יושב ראש הסוכנות נתן שרנסקי. ראש העיר עדיין כאן? אם הוא עדיין כאן או רוחו מרחפת כאן, אני מברך אותו על הדברים שהביא בפנינו עם בשורה טובה.
Upon the spirit of what he's just said. I meet with him from time to time in the Prime Minister's office. That's a good sign of cooperation. Once again, I'd like to thank the mayor mainly for what he said about drawing special attention to the fact that the City Council, under his leadership, is about to allocate over the coming years funds for developing Eastern Jerusalem. I wish you all Chodesh Tov, a good new month. I am here by chance instead of Minister Yuli Edelstein, who was supposed to represent the government. That was the Prime Minister's request, and in the end, the Prime Minister asked him to accompany him on his trip to Russia. But perhaps it is not by chance that I was chosen to replace him. Just a few hundred meters from here, 300 meters from here, many years ago, my own mother gave birth to me here at Hadassah Hospital that was here on Mount Scopus at the time, and my son and out of our numerous grandchildren too were also born at the same hospital, just a few hundred meters from this very hall. As a Jerusalemite, I'd like to commend the organizers of this conference. Any one of us who has ever dealt with these matters knows how difficult it is to organize a conference once, and all the more so to persevere and do it again and again, year after year, faced with all the difficulties of bringing participants. This is already the 7th year. And good luck to you in the future as well. I'd like to say a few words about an attempt to repair a certain type of political discourse that, according to my understanding, has taken over our political Israeli discourse here in Israel and even abroad, and that is all the more significant. For quite a few years now, the rationale, the sole rationale that is voiced by the prime ministers and members of government were security needs, and almost everything else was neglected. All those fundamental needs that could have come together and been organized as a discourse of rights. Others, not necessarily those of our party, are very successful. I can't applaud them for it, but they're very successful at precisely that type of discourse. They claim rights, sometimes they invent rights. For many years, here in Israel, talking about rights, justice, it wasn't modern enough. It wasn't a good approach. It had to do, God forbid, with ideology. It wasn't what we call today in. It wasn't the right bon ton. And the security needs of the State of Israel took center stage. Internationally, when national interests, or even the national interests of Israel, were defined and set forth, they were not only fundamentally, they were solely security interests. As far as that's concerned, Jerusalem has a major role to play. Of course, we support the natural and historical right of the ancient Jewish people, our right to Hebron, Shiloh, Beit El, but more than anything else, perhaps, it's easy to convince people that this discourse is necessarily, is needed, it's effective when we talk about Jerusalem. After all, somebody could perhaps say that this place, Mount Scopus, of historical value, according to my own family records that I just told you of, that this mountain has security importance. The military people say it is a high vantage point looking both eastwards and westwards. This is not the case. Could anybody claim that the importance of the Temple Mount is a security need because it is also a vantage point over Nahal Kidron? Would anyone say and claim the importance of the city of David, the Chizkiyahu water tunnel, that perhaps at some point it would be an underground refuge for our home front officers? We know better than that. The only rationale is our historical bond existing from time immemorial to this place, more than the bond linking any other religion or people to this place. We must admit, unfortunately, that over the past few years there has been a detraction to the status of Jerusalem, not only by concealing these fundamental rights of ours over this city. In addition, the negotiating table was the place for far-reaching plans of giving up significant parts of eastern Jerusalem, and there was also a plan to give up Israeli sovereignty, Jewish sovereignty over the Temple Mount, the Mount of Olives, the city of David. And it was proposed that there should be an international consortium governing these places. This happened just a year or a year and a half ago. Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the US, the PLO, and perhaps Israel too, and you may be glad to hear this, was a partner to these negotiations. This is extremely harmful, and it's ironic. We should draw a lesson. And the proposal fell on nobody's willing ears. Nobody was willing, and that's the irony, to entertain this proposal. The other side refused point blank. And let me say on the behalf of the government of Israel that such proposals will never come up again under any circumstances. We are living in what's known as a postmodernist world that is used to talking about equality and seeing truth and half-truths as the opposite of truth. We are being told time and again about narratives, the relativism of narratives, alternate narratives, and let me say quite honestly, there is no equality among religions, among people, when it comes to the right over Jerusalem.
לכל המקומות
free access
הקדושים,
to all the
לכל
holy
בני הדתות,
sites, to
לכל מי
all
שרוצה
peoples
וחפץ,
of all
בוודאי,
religions.
אבן
Of
יסוד,
course,
כפי שציין
that
גם
is a
ראש
cornerstone,
העיר.
as the mayor
אבל
said, of our approach.
כדי להבטיח
But in
זאת,
order to ensure that this
דרושה
can happen,
ירושלים
it is
בריבונותה
necessary that
הבלעדית
the
של
sovereign
מדינת ישראל.
of Jerusalem will be solely the state of Israel.
גם מידידים,
We hear from friends
רמזים,
various
המובילים
hints
אותנו
leading
למסקנה
us to the conclusion
שלהם יש רעיונות
that they have ideas
הקרובים לבינאום.
that are something
אנחנו
along the
שמענו
lines of
מידידים בחודשים
internationalization
האחרונים,
of Jerusalem. We've
כאילו
heard
באופן
in recent
אובייקטיבי,
months from our friends, as if objectively
שיש עניין
speaking,
בירושלים
there is an interest
לבני
in
דתות
Jerusalem
שונות,
to the various
והן מנויות,
religions, and
גם
they,
נוצרים, גם מוסלמים, גם יהודים,
Christians, Muslims, and Jews,
אלה הם רמזים שצריכים
are
להבהיר
all
לנו,
participants.
צריכים לעמוד על
These
המשמר,
hints should warn us to
מסמנים
stay alert.
כיוון
They indicate
שאולי
the
חלילה מתחלף
direction that, God
גם בין
forbid,
ידידים מובהקים
is
שלנו, כאילו
becoming apparent
הפתרון
even among
נעוץ
our closest
בבינאום
friends,
שלפחות
as if
חלק
ostensibly
מירושלים
internationalization of at least part of the city is the necessary solution, and perhaps some of us are guilty of contributing to the solution as
רבים מכם
well.
אולי כבר שמעו, האנשים
Many of you have perhaps heard, or the members of the Presidium have of course heard, about
אמירה על פרט בהיסטוריה
a
של התנועה
detail
הציונית,
in the annals of the Zionist movement relating to one of our founders, the founders of the movement. There are various stories, anecdotes. Some say it was Kleinboim, Moshe Sneh, some say it was
ככה נאמר,
Sokolov,
אולי לא ברצינות יתרה,
and maybe tongue-in-cheek.
שהיה נמצא
They say that it was found that a certain note, a note
שהם החזיקו
that one of these people held
היה כתוב בשוליים,
when he was giving a speech,
נימוק
the
חלש,
note said, "This
להרים
is
את
a
הקול."
very weak point. Raise your
ועל כן,
voice."
אני רוצה לומר הערב,
And here tonight, I'd like
וכאן
to
כתוב
say,
לי,
it says here on this
לומר
little note, it says,
בשקט,
to speak softly.
ירושלים,
Jerusalem,
בירתנו,
our
כולה
capital,
בריבונות ישראל,
is entirely under
לא
Israeli
תחולק עוד.
sovereignty, and it will never be divided again.